bad, me sick, me reggaeville. Never been a Cub Scout, I'm a general. Never rise no machine, but me brother will.
So, good afternoon, Los Angeles and Roger Steffens. Roger, you're long time working on the Marley and reggae and related fronts. Summarise, if you can summarise, the Marley connection.
Oh, God. How long is your show? Well, it's a lifetime, and virtually my entire adult life has been a study of Bob Marley and all the things that leads you into. I read an article in Rolling Stone that I never tire of quoting by a brilliant Australian gonzo journalist named Michael Thomas, and he wrote a piece in June of '73 in Rolling Stone called The Wild Side of Paradise about reggae in Jamaica, and I'd never heard the word reggae in my life at that point, but he said, reggae music crawls into your bloodstream like some vampire amoeba from the psychic rapids of Upper Niger consciousness. And boy, that was like a punch in the mouth. And I ran out, I literally ran out of the house down to Shattuck Avenue, and I found a used copy in Berkeley of Catch a Fire for $2.25. I figured I could take a chance. And the next day I saw The Harder They Come, the great Jimmy Cliff musical that put reggae on the map. And I just wanted to turn everybody I met onto this music, this incredible body of work that none of us had ever been exposed to. And it led me to a study of Jamaican history. I went to 15 years of Catholic school, so I knew nothing about the Bible. So I had to learn about the Bible, about Selassie and Rastafari and Jamaican political history and the history of slavery and all the things that this conscious, intelligent art form brings into your life. And it's been 45 years now, and I'm still learning new things almost every day.
And over the years, your favourite memory?
Oh, God. There's a book of memories. Just being with Bob for 2 weeks in 1979 and seeing how he acted privately and interacted with his fans. And the last moments I spent with him were almost alone in the Roxy, where he did a 3-hour sound check all by himself, playing all the instruments himself. He wanted everything to be perfect. Family Man, the band leader, was up in the little mixing booth above the stage, setting all the levels. And it was all the big shots in Hollywood and music business were going to come to this. And it had to be perfect. And this is November 1979, when he is a superstar filling stadiums. And he had that attention to detail. People often ask me if I had to choose one word to describe Bob. It's the word that every one of his intimates use as well. Disciplined. Disciplined. First guy on the bus, last guy off. Last guy to go to bed at night, first guy up in the morning. His mother told me he slept 2 or 3 hours a night. That was it. He had too much work to do.
Yeah.
So no wonder he died. Well, he did. He prophesied his own death at 36 when he was 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Nailed it right to the year. Yeah.
So that's your favourite reggae memory. Your least favourite?
My least favorite memory. That I can talk about publicly?
Publicly. Only publicly.
Okay. I think the day I found out that Bunny Wailer had abandoned a project that I'd been working on with my partner Leroy Pearson for 10 years, the autobiography of Bunny Wailer. And yeah, 10 years of my life, and he no longer wanted to publish the book. He was afraid of certain parties. And so right there, old fire sticks, manuscript, 1,800 pages, sitting in a box on the floor of the Reggae Archives. So that's my unhappiest memory.
Hopefully we will see that someday. Taking you back to the Wailers, the three main front men, starting with Bob, beyond the rehearsal, your best memory of Bob?
Well, it happened when I got to show him the work in progress called Heartland Reggae, which was the One Love Peace concert film. And Jim Lewis and Randy Torno, who'd made it, came with a work print of the film. They were editing it at this time in November of '79 in LA. And there's a scene, world famous scene at the end, where he brings Manley and Seaga on stage at the One Love Peace concert and makes them shake hands in front of 40,000 people. His art director, Neville Garrick, said that was like Christ on the cross between the two thieves. And after we showed this to him, he was asked what was going through his mind standing between these two men in whose name thousands of people have been killed. And he said, well, I'm no politician, but if I'm a politician, only one thing for me to do: kill them both. So that's a fond memory. That was raw, honest to the bone, Bob. Yeah.
And your worst Bob memory?
Well, the day I learned he had cancer. And you know, that was in 1977, and the band said they didn't know about it until September of '80 in New York when he collapsed. But I find that so hard to believe, because I wasn't involved professionally in reggae in any way at that point in '77. And I just knew via a reggae collector's grapevine. People in New York called me and said, hey, Bob's got cancer. Yeah.
And moving to Peter Tosh, Roger, your favourite memory?
I have a lot of fond memories of Peter. I loved his wordplay. He called the Queen of England Queen Eliza bitch. And I put together the words of the herbalist verbalist for the box set. And I learned that Queen Elizabeth line the day after we went to press with the book, because I would have included that. It's so clever. The judge was the grudge. His manager was his damager. His producer was his reducer. He played in L.A. He played in San Francisco, California, United States of Asatica, because there's nothing merry about America. It's Asatica. Just that kind of personal interaction with him. The day we met. Oh, okay. Can I tell you a Peter Tosh story? Charlie Comer, about whom I spoke earlier, the Liverpool Irishman who was Bob and Peter's publicist, called me up in September of 1979 here in LA, and he said, Roger, Peter's in your town, and he's got no herb. Can you help him out? And I said, well, Charlie, you're in luck, because I've just come back from a friend's plantation in Santa Cruz Mountains up north. And he had a whole bunch of 16-foot plants, and he gave me two of the colas, the tops. And they were about 2 feet long, and they were as round as grapefruits. I mean, they were enormous. So he gave me the room number at the Sunset Marquis, where Peter was staying just off the Sunset Strip in Hollywood. And he said, Peter will be expecting you. So Mary, my wife, wrapped it up, one of these colas, in beautiful wrapping paper, put a red, gold, and green ribbon around it. And off we go to the Sunset Marquis, and we knock on the door, and he's got a chain on it. So he opens up just a few inches, and he looks out, and I'm standing there with this enormous thing wrapped in my hand. And he goes, oh, what that? I said, well, it's a gift to you, bush doctor, from the herbalists of California. And he takes the chain off, grabs him, pulls me, and grabs Mary, pulls her, and slams the door, puts the chain on, all in about 5 seconds. Rips a little of the paper, and he sees what it is. So he takes the ribbon off, takes all the paper off, and he's looking at this enormous bud. And he breaks a piece off, and he smells it, and he looks down the barrel of it, and finally he turns to me and he says, Chaw, take a whole lot more than this to get my propeller spin.
Yes.
I didn't mean to insult you, Bush Doctor. Sorry, man. But he didn't give it back.
I bet. And Tosh being Tosh, you may have a worse memory.
Well, it was a disappointing memory. I wouldn't say it's a worst memory. The worst memory was the day he died. It's the first time my kids ever saw me cry. But saddest memory, and it's on video, it's on YouTube. He was on my LA reggae cable TV show several times, and I always came prepared, and he really respected me. He called me 3 or 4 times a year from various places around the world, because he had none of his own music. And he wanted me to tape this or tape that and send it to him overnight, wherever the hell he was. And, you know, I talked to him like I talked to you, like a good friend. And so he started saying that lie that he always said, you know, we were never Bob Marley and the Wailers until Chris Blackwell called us that. Well, I mean, this is mental dyslexia. Blackwell didn't call him Bob Marley and the Wailers, called him the Wailers. He wanted to promote them like they were a rock band, Traffic or something. And you look at the original pressing of Catch a Fire, you look at Burnin', they're both the Wailers. But you go back all the way to Cox and Dodd. I have a copy, one of the earliest pressings of their first record in 1964, Simmer Down, attributed to Bob and the Wailers. But the telling point is, and I'm explaining this to Peter on camera on my show, and I pull out the Wailers' own label in '66, and it's all attributed to Bob Marley and the Wailing Wailers on their own label, Waylon Solemn Records. And their albums on Trojan, even though they had no direct control over their release, are all Bob Marley and the Wailers. So it's the opposite of what you're telling me. And then, you know, some people make comments when they see this on the internet. He was being so disrespectful to Peter Tosh. What an ugly white man, that kind of stuff. Well, no, I was just telling him the truth and showing it to him, handing it to him. How can you say that, Peter? That's not where it is. That's not the truth. And he respected me for it. You know, he called me just a few days before he was murdered, and he was looking for a copy of Here Comes the Judge, which was about all the major figures, bad men in the history of slavery, and he wanted to redo it with modern names.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So you may have given us your worst memory of Bunny. Do you have a favourite memory?
Yeah, a few. I spent so much time with him. You know, he had one day that lasted 14 hours. He never even ate, he just drank water. And he took us to his dreamland when he quit the Wailers and got $40,000 from Chris Blackwell to make 2 albums. He took that money and bought an estate on the eastern end of the island. And he drove us up there. He had a cement house that was under construction. And we'd only been there 2 days, and Leroy and I asked him if he knew where we could buy some herb. And he got very upset. Buy herb? When you are the guest of Bunny Wailer? I am herb. And he disappeared into the bush. And it was twilight, and then it was dark, and there was no electricity or anything. And there was a little fire in a pit, and we hear something coming through the brushes, and we kind of freak out. And it's Bunny, and he's got armloads of freshly cut herb from his plantation. And he puts it on the hood of his car, which has this giant lion hood ornament. And he pulls out a machete and he starts chopping it on the hood of the car. And that was the first time we smoked herb with Bunny. And the next day he arrived at the hotel with maybe about 3 ounces in a big bag. And Leroy and I are both huge herb smokers. And that lasted, I think, 6 days. And we said, what else you got? So from that point forward, he tried to top whatever he had brought the previous time until the final night when we were saying our goodbyes. And he brought like half an ounce of little pellets. And we said, oh, Bunny, you ran out of the good stuff, huh? And he just looked at us. This bud, short bud, goat shit. Roll it, Bretta. Leroy rolled one and couldn't finish it. Now this is a guy who smokes day and night his whole life. The next morning, when we arrived at customs, they took one look at him and pulled him in and stripped him. He was still stoned. And I did 3 or 4 of those joints that night. Same stuff. And he says, "Chaw, Brother Roger, me never see a white man smoke like you." So I consider that one of the great compliments of my life.
Indeed.
But Leroy, you should have seen him, man. He could barely focus. I don't know what it was in it, but it hit him so hard, chronically. Short Bud Goat Shit by Bunny Whaler. He should brand that.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And Roger, you've made a great contribution to the music and built up a phenomenal archive. Are you happy with your legacy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd be an ingrate if I weren't, because it's not my legacy, it's the legacy of hundreds and hundreds of people who have freely shared with me what they've found, and I try to find what they want and give it back to them, and that's how all of this was built up way before the internet, when, cassette was the means of communication, and the cassette is the greatest invention of the second half of the 20th century, oral samizdat. And, I've got, what did we figure out, 2,200 hours of cassettes. And they hold up really, really well, that analog stuff. Much better than the CD stuff does. Yeah. No, and it's headed to be a museum in Jamaica. I think we're making good progress. I've been trying to do that for almost 30 years. But we finally, I think, have found the right people with the right motivation and want to share it with the whole world, which is my main goal. It must be kept intact forever, and it must be made available to the public while observing all the artist rights.
Yes. Yes.
And we're close. We're close, and that'll be my gift to Jamaica. It belongs in Jamaica. It's Jamaica's history. Mm-hmm. And so much of the past 20 years has been devoted to the internationalization of reggae. I mean, you're living proof of that. You're here from Ireland. Mm-hmm. And people come here from, the far corners of the earth. One night at 10:30, a weeknight, the doorbell rings, and there are 6 huge Polynesian guys. I mean, the lightest was about 320 pounds. And they said they were a reggae band from Papua New Guinea. And they've heard about the archives, and they've got a dozen hours between flights, and they took a cab here to see the archives. Could they come in, please? I was afraid that back room floor was going to collapse, because that room shouldn't be there, And it's the lingua franca of people who love music. I mean, reggae music is the chosen rhythm of resistance for rebellion and for protest music around the world. They may not always understand the words, but they understand the rhythm. As I said to Keith Richards, it's the beat of the healthy human heart at rest. It's what you hear in the womb. So it goes back to atavistic times. And here we are, listening to music that will be listened to for as long as humans are on this planet. As long as widows need solace and revolutionaries need their enthusiasm buoyed with hope, they're going to listen to Bob Marley. And reggae in general. Yeah, it's the King's music in every way.
thanks for your work, and thanks for this interview.
Yeah, man. Thank you for making the trip. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.